Are you an
I
atheist?
mean, yeah.
You're an atheist?
Yeah.
Do you believe in moral absolutes?
No.
No? So you believe it's possible that the Holocaust was possibly good?
I guess it's possible. I mean, I don't believe it was good and I don't believe it was bad.
Do you believe the Holocaust was absolutely evil?
No.
No? I respect your consistency.
Thank you. But, okay.
I'm convinced the Holocaust is absolutely evil and that the rape and torture of an innocent girl is absolutely evil. But as an atheist, you're acknowledging that the rape of an innocent girl and the Holocaust aren't evil, aren't absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
You're actually the first person that has ever been able to logically communicate that out. You're the first that I've run across. I think that, I mean, I cringe when I hear that, but I respect your intellectual consistency.
Uh-huh.
The idea that the murder of millions of Jews is not absolutely evil is frightening to me.
Uh-huh.
Or that the rape and torture of an innocent girl is frightening me, because where does that lead? It leads to, it doesn't matter what you do.
I don't think it does.
You can do whatever you want. There's no moral lawgiver. There's no absolute basis for morality. So as long as you don't get caught, you can rip people off, you can steal stock portfolios, you can conduct date rape, whatever you want to do, as long as you don't get caught.
Yeah. I mean, you could even do it if you get caught if you want.
So that's a pretty scary worldview, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I would.
Is that your experience in life?
What?
Is your experience in life that there are no moral absolutes? Or do you reel back with moral indignation when you see a movie like The Schindler's List?
I haven't seen that, but I reel back with what other people I think would call moral indignation.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I have, you know...
So your experience in life is that there is a moral absolute?
Well, I don't know if that's what I'm experiencing. I mean, I'm having some kind of psychological reaction, but I don't know if that has anything to do with morality.
Have you ever experienced guilt?
Yeah.
I'm convinced that guilt is an alarm system given us by God to inform us if we've done good or done evil. And when we experience guilt, we're experiencing a moral absolute in our lives. That when I stole from my mom when I was 9 years old and I took $5 out of her wallet and I experienced guilt even though I never got caught, that's God's alarm system saying, hey, watch out, you've crossed a boundary. And so I think that our experience in life is that there are moral absolutes. That's why we reel back with moral indignation over the Holocaust, over the rape and torture of an innocent girl. And for somebody to walk out of Schindler's List singing tra-la-la, the Nazis murdered a few Jews, there's really something wrong with you. Because you're not identifying with the evil that happened. And I think that our ability to identify with an evil, an absolute evil, points to the existence of a moral lawgiver. Well, we don't walk around saying that everything's indifferent, that nothing really matters. But we do reel back and experience these moral indignations.
Yeah, but I mean, those reactions we have, you know, could have another explanation besides God.
What's the explanation?
I don't know. I mean, with guilt, it could have something to do with the fact that we naturally have empathy for other people because it was conducive to the survival either of individuals or the species. And so, you know, we feel bad when we do things that hurt other people.
And that's where you and I differ, because you just communicated that there is no absolute evil in the Holocaust.
Well, I said,
not
all I said
evil.
is I don't believe that there is. There might be, for all I know, but I just don't believe that there is.
Good. Okay, so you're kind of taking a different stance now.
No.
Because before you said that there's no absolute evil in the Holocaust, and now you're saying there might be.
I didn't say that. I said I don't think there is. You asked me, so you don't think that...
Okay, so what I'm appealing to is your conscience. What I'm saying is just look at your experience of life. When you reel back with moral indignation over something that happens, or if somebody steals your 20 bucks that's in your wallet, and you tell them you should not have done that, when you use a word like should, you're appealing to a standard of justice that exists separate from you and I, and saying this standard of justice really exists. That experience of life points to a moral lawgiver. That there's a mind prior to the human mind that creates and defines what's right and wrong. If there is no mind prior to the human mind, everything becomes relative. It doesn't matter if you're Adolf Hitler II or Mother Teresa II. It's all relative. But our experience of life, at least in my experience, and most of the people that I know, and I would argue even you, that you do experience moral indignation and moral absolutes.
I experience what I think you're calling moral indignation, but I still think those feelings can, be explained without appealing to God.
It could be, but what's most logical? What's most plausible? Is it most plausible that you experience moral absolutes because there's a moral lawgiver? Or is it more plausible that it's just a feeling that you have?
I think...
Is it more plausible that a 7-year-old that steals $5 out of his mom's purse experiences guilt just because of some feeling? Or is it more plausible that there really are moral absolutes, that stealing is really wrong, therefore that child has a conscience given him by God to identify that he just did wrong?
Well, I don't see what's so implausible about about it all just being just feelings. And
what's implausible about it is that it's almost impossible to live that out. It's impossible to live a life where you do not at least identify some things are really wrong. For a woman to walk home after a 7-year marriage and find her husband in bed with another woman, and to look at the husband who's cheating on her and say, you know what, shouldn't have done that, but it's really no big deal.
Okay, but she could
you just had that urge.
But she could still have some kind of emotional reaction against it. I mean, she might not actually believe it's wrong, but she could still be hurt by it and want to retaliate. And so also...
I would appeal to your experience of moral absolutes, which you said that you do experience.
I said I experience
what you
call moral indignation.
That you aren't just a random collocation of atoms, just blowing with the wind. That you actually have a conscience and can identify when you see evil. If there is no God, then you have to look at the Holocaust and say, the Holocaust is totally indifferent.
I'm not sure about that.
You have to. Because morality, there's no more basis. There's no absolute basis for morality.
So God's the basis for morality?
God is the basis for morality, yes.
So...
And if you take God out of the equation, the basis for morality just falls through, and it becomes human minds and societies of human minds that create and define what's right and wrong, which means I create and define what's right and wrong for me, you create it for you, this society creates it for them, and this society creates it for them.
God creates
nobody's right and nobody's wrong.
So God creates and decides what's right and wrong, right? According to you? Okay, then doesn't that make what's right and what's wrong arbitrary? Like God could have made rape and torture right.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No, because...
Why not?
I'll explain it to you. Because when we talk about a moral basis, an absolute basis for morality, I'm appealing to a mind prior to the human mind that creates and defines what's right and wrong. If that mind prior to the human minds doesn't exist, it all becomes relative because we define right and wrong. Morality flows out of God's nature. God is good. There's no darkness, there's no evil in him.
Okay.
So it's impossible for God to go against his own nature and call Eve and make rape good.
But what is good is decided by God.
Right. In the same way that God cannot make 2 + 2 = 5, he cannot make rape good. That's impossible because it's self-contradictory. Because God is good.
Yeah, God
rape
is
evil.
good. But I mean, but God decides what's good. He could decide rape is good if he wanted. I don't see why he couldn't. If he's the one who decides what's
God
good.
doesn't just arbitrarily decide what's good.
What basis is there? You said he is the basis of morality.
It flows out of who he is. It flows out of his nature.
Okay, then it seems like you're saying there's some independent standard of morality that God inherits somehow. But
No,
you can't have it both ways.
It's intrinsic to who God is.
Okay,
it's
but
intrinsic to who he is.
You still seem to be saying that there's like some kind of independent standard of morality.
Oh, I'm appealing to God as the absolute standard, the absolute basis for morality. I think it's simple. If there is no God, there's no mind prior to the human mind,
Yeah.
which means morality is totally relative. So you create it for you, I create it for me. Because there is a God, it's possible for there to be an anchor and a basis for morality that really exists. And that comes from and flows from his nature, because God is good.